Welcome to session All on Board, Reimagining the Emergency Response to Unsheltered Homelessness, just to make sure you're in the right room. With encampments making headlines across the globe and municipalities grappling with solutions, communities in both urban and rural settings are seeing success with a united outreach approach that empowers frontline workers and engages unsheltered neighbours. Hear directly from program leads about what is working well, areas for quality improvement, and planned enhancements to collaborate with approaches in your own community. That's our topic for today. Before we begin, however, I'd like to do a land acknowledgement. This land that we are upon today is the traditional territory of the Algonquin peoples. Ottawa was called other names before Queen Victoria named it Canada's capital. Ottawa was called Bytown, Unity Town, Uweyas, and other names as well. Ottawa is an Anishinaabe word that means to trade. And actually Ottawa, O-D-A-W-A is actually how it's spelled. We recognize the Algonquins as the customary keepers and defenders of the Ottawa River, watersheds, and its tributaries. We honor their long history of welcoming many nations to this beautiful territory and uphold and uplift the voice and values of our host nation. To introduce our three presenters today, we have first up Innovative Emergency Response Partnerships for Unsheltered Homelessness, Rob Mastroianni from the City of Hamilton, and Andrew Matthews from the St. Matthew's House, Hamilton. Following that presentation, we will have Sheltering Dignity, which is shining the light on preventing homelessness and a pathway to being housed for seniors. We have Alison Silgardo today to present for us, the Senior Services Society of BC. We also have Jenny Cognan doing a presentation by video that Alison will play for us as well, and she comes from Whole Way House. Our third presentation today is United Outreach Model, a collaborative approach to serving vulnerable individuals. We have Avery Brown from Mokami Status of Women Council and Chantel Parsons from Nunavut. Did I almost get that? No. Okay, let me try again. Nunatsiavut. Nunatsiavut government, and that's in Labrador, which I should know because I come from Newfoundland. Just a really quick housekeeping. When we get to the question and answer period, we do not have a cordless mic in the room. So you can stand if you're comfortable to do so, or shout out your question, and I'm going to repeat it in the mic, or you have the option as well to come up here at the podium and speak your question into the mic. So I apologize for that. We don't have the mic in the room to pass around, so we'll do our best to accommodate. Raise your hand if you want me to come down and get your question. Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Rob Mastroianni.
I'm Andrew Matthews.
So we're just going to be giving an overview of the City of Hamilton's annual winter response strategy that was implemented this past winter season, so for 2023-2024, and just a little bit of a background on kind of how we got to our annual winter response. So prior to implementing our winter response strategy, historically, when it came to our winter kind of overflow and response for winter season, trying to address the needs of our shelter system and homeless individuals, we normally relied on our shelters and our drop-ins to go into overcapacity. In years prior, obviously we had a little bit of space in our shelters still. We weren't running at overcapacity all the time, so that kind of worked for the most part. We had some flexibility there. But it got increasingly difficult for us during COVID, as I'm sure it's the case for many of you folks. So our overcapacity, relying on overcapacity space in our system just wasn't an option anymore. As well, prior to that, our winter response, we always responded during the winter when public health called an extreme cold weather alert. So in Hamilton, an extreme cold weather alert was called when temperatures became -15 or -20 with wind chill. So we did a review of that response and obviously determined that for winter response in our system, we didn't care if it was -4 or -24. We wanted to be able to have some capacity in our system. So we decoupled our response from when an extreme cold weather alert is called, which still happens through public health. But our system responds and is what we implemented is a daily response regardless of temperature from December 1st to March 31st of every season.
Just to note that that is also that change of making it into a whole winter response is more beneficial to our street outreach teams who were responsible for communicating to our unhoused neighbors and population that it was actually a cold alert tonight. And it's also just more consistency and availability for our clients out there, so they don't have to wonder if tonight is cold enough. They just know.
So a quick overview of what our annual winter response strategy was and what we implemented last year is that, again, starting December 1st, we were activating 100 additional overnight drop-in spaces. So they were existing drop-in locations for the most part that either expanded their space and their capacity to either operate, if it was a daytime one, to be able to operate 24/7 and add some overnight spaces, or existing locations that added additional spaces or additional beds to their location. As well as actually opening like a full additional site for single men. It also included the HSR warming bus, which we're going to get into in more detail. So that included one Hamilton Street Railway or Hamilton Transit bus that operated on a consistent route every night and had on-site supports through Andrew's agency. We also had additional locations through 3 rec centers in Hamilton that were designated as warming centers that stayed open for expanded hours. So stayed open till 11:30 every night, as well as being open on stat holidays or other days that the rec centers would normally be closed, because that was a gap in our system when all the other locations were closed. We obviously wanted somewhere for people to still be able to go on holidays and such. As well as our Hamilton Public Library, our central branch, modeled the same thing. So extended hours and on stat holidays and stuff, they stayed open. We recognize that this wasn't, the best practice response or anything like that. It wasn't a solution to moving people into housing that we were all striving for. It really was to provide an alternative for keeping people housed during the winter months until we could come up with implementing some more permanent long-term solutions. So quickly, the warming bus itself was a collaborative between the city, street rail or HSR, so our bus system in Hamilton, and St. Matthews, which Andrew was part of St. Matthews agency.
So the bus itself operated from 10 p.m. until 6 a.m., 7 nights a week, including holidays, straight from December 1st until March 31st. It was a pre-planned loop. For those who are not from Hamilton, we have what we call the mountain. It's like an 80-meter escarpment. It's not a mountain, but we call it the mountain. And so the bus would travel a 3-hour loop that kind of spent 2 hours above the mountain, and then 1 hour kind of in the main downtown strip below the mountain. That's where most of our unhoused population is, and where pretty much all of the shelters and service areas are down there. So typically, a typical night, we would have about an hour through which we were heading downtown and we were picking people up, getting people on board, and then about a 2-hour big loop around where people could just kind of rest, get a blanket, put their head against the wall, anything like that. The stops included the 3 recreation centers that had the extended warming hours. Typically, one of the 3 was downtown and right near a lot of other services. So typically that one was much busier. And we would arrive at that busy rec center pretty much right as it was closing. So it was timed ideally and optimistically that we would arrive right as they were closing. And then, as I said, we did hit the overall shelters and other drop-ins in just kind of high populated areas.
So oftentimes we get asked, how much did this cost you to run the bus? So just a quick little overview of our expenses for actually operating the bus for that winter season. So it was about $220,000 for that season for the bus itself. So it included the operation of the bus, the expenses for, fuel, the bus driver. It included some expenses for rentals, the rental and other expenses that went along with the bus, and like maintenance, some damage repairs, that kind of stuff, as well as the on-site staff, which were seconded through St. Matthew's House and Andrew and his team, and some additional costs for snacks, drinks, that kind of thing for riders as they were on the bus overnight.
So in terms of staff and scheduling, from my end, we operated with 4 staff, 2 of which were on shift every night. From the HSR side, they had 1 full-time driver who was there 5 nights a week, and then I can't speak to how the spare board and how the other 2 nights a week work, but HSR did their thing there. My staff, my social services team would alternate kind of 3 to 4 day weeks, and then also provide on-call coverage for each other. So within the 4 people, the 4 staff and 2 required on each night, we were able to have basically full coverage, including on-call coverage for everybody. So there was able to be like rest periods between shifts. We weren't grinding our employees straight down 5 nights a week. Overall, it worked pretty okay from that scheduling perspective. In terms of riders, overall through the 4 months, we saw 2,759 overall riders, which you can see the averages for each month here. So December, it starts about 17.8 average riders a night, and then picks up as it goes. I will note, the first 2 nights of operation, we had absolutely 0 riders. And then the first week after those 2 nights, we started seeing 9, 10 people, 15 people, and then towards kind of after that last week, we would start seeing regularly 20 to 25 to 30 people. Towards March, the average does kind of dip down. In Hamilton this past year, March got warm a little early. So kind of towards those last 2-3 weeks of March, we did see some of the riders peter off as the program was coming to an end. Holidays, we operated all through the holidays, so Christmas, Boxing Day, New Year's Eve, Family Day. Thank you. We operated through all those. There was no significant swing either way. Ridership was pretty equal, whether it was a holiday or a non-holiday. We did see, on our busiest nights, we saw up to 36 riders. Oftentimes, people would ride for the full 3 loops on each night. But very often, as we did start to get really, really in there and ridership was high, we did have people taking turns. So they'd ride for 1 loop, get warm for 3 hours, and then trade off with somebody else back at the same spot. So the consistency in the route and the spots, we'll be back here in 3 hours, was very helpful for that. And also just people could say, you know what, I'm okay now, but in 3 hours when it's 4:30, I'll probably take you up on that. And so we're able to do that. We did have to have our staff really hop out at the stops to engage with clients and really encourage them, let them know where we were going. I'm sure if you're unhoused on the street and a bus comes up in the middle of the night and people come, hey, come on in, that's a very strange thing to hear. So we'd have to ensure people will be right back here in 3 hours, you can get off, and we would explain where the routes are. We did have 61 instances of riders being turned away because of full capacity. On the bus, it was just a typical city bus. I would say comfortably 20 people was fine. Everybody could kind of put their heads against the wall, stretch out a little bit. And then once you're approaching 30 people, it's tight. So when you have your bags or your belongings or a cart, that really starts to get tight in there. For food and supplies, I really don't want to give the idea that this is some magical bus with a kitchen or anything. It's just a bus. So it was a lot of dry food, dry supplies, bottles of water, stuff like that. Protein drinks, just pure protein, whatever, from Costco, Ensure, Boost, hugely popular. By far the most requested thing. And chapstick. We had a couple crates of chapstick from our friends at Public Health, and we would give those away like crazy. Even if it's just at a stop, people weren't getting on the bus, but we're saying, hey, we have chapstick. Very, very popular. And we'd also give out warm clothes, blankets, gloves, hats, pretty much anything. That would work out to about 4.5 items per night that we were giving out. So quite a lot overall. In terms of food items that were given out, so bottles of water, granola bars, soft foods, protein drinks, stuff like that. We gave out 5,539 food items over the 4 months, which works out to around 2 to 3 items per rider. So most people took, a protein drink and a bottle of water and a granola bar, and just kind of kept those items there. We're also attempting referrals to other programs. I think very optimistically, we were hoping that we'd be like, hey, we got a rider, maybe we can connect with the shelter and find a spot for them. In reality, kind of the opposite way is what's happening. Shelters and rec centers were coming to us and trying to call us and say, hey, we're full. Can you pick somebody up? Most of our referrals were to drop in day programs. So kind of we're getting towards 4:30, 5:30 in the morning. We're winding down for the night. Clients want to know, where can I go now? So we, St. Matthew's House, as part of this winter partnership, we also operated a drop-in day center. So we're able to link those two services and just say, hey, we're dropping you off, but you can come right over here to our day center. And then we did have some really successful outcomes. So some clients who we met on the bus, and one client in particular we met on the bus, and they were able to come to our day program. We were able to then say, hey, how about the emergency shelter system? If the bus is a bit much, we can keep trying. And then we ended up finding him housing through the workers and volunteers at the day center. So it was very much a through line of we met some people on the bus who we might not have otherwise met, and we're able to broadly connect them to more services. Absolutely.
The one thing I'd add is that we did a bunch of or a number of planning meetings with all of our emergency shelters, our drop-ins, the agencies that were providing support and winter response locations, because we didn't want to have a scenario of the bus showing up and letting people off outside a shelter when there wasn't a bed or wasn't somewhere for them to go. We didn't want to be creating additional pressure on those locations because a bus rolled up and opened up and all these people got out. So we did a bunch of planning meetings and to ensure that we were not doing that. Andrew and his team obviously did a lot of work as well to try to call ahead and coordinate whether or not there was somebody that was interested in a shelter bed, and planning in advance with that location, saying, we're going to be there in 20 minutes. Yes, there's a bed available. Okay, I got Rob that's going to come off and take that bed, kind of thing. So we try to be very diligent about making sure that this wasn't creating additional hardship on our system.
And so some of the challenges we ran into, as Rob said, from our end on the bus in the middle of the night, it is difficult and loud to use your phone on a bus to try and even connect somebody to shelter. Buses are really loud. As you're there, you kind of get used to the thrum and can lay down and put your head. But actually connecting and receiving calls and calling other rec centers, surprisingly hard to hear and difficult to do. In the course, we did have one particular spot, which was called the West Hamilton Loop. It's kind of on one edge of town, and it's really like a lit up bus stop, and it's kind of a rest area for bus drivers. And it's kind of just a wooded, dark area. So a lot of times we would break there on the loop for 20 to 30 minutes so the driver could take their break. A lot of our clients would get out and smoke, sometimes use drugs. We would try to discourage that as much as we could. Once again, this is not a safe use shelter with doctor and nurse supervision. This is a bus as a emergency response to get warm. There were client altercations, as much as you could expect with kind of a confined space like that. And there was an instance, a pretty severe instance of a driver altercation with a client. But generally within the expected realm of what you would see in a shelter or otherwise confined space. Difficulty with also what other overnight supports can be provided. We were really hoping and ambitiously wanting to, have this overnight magical thing. And truthfully, it's hard to make connections in the middle of the night. So oftentimes that flow through, as I said earlier, would be towards our day center, where the day center workers could kind of make those connections as other services were open. And then capacity issues. The bus we had, as I said, was 20 people, was pretty comfortable. As you started to get up to 30, it started to get a little bit tight in there. We did on one night have one of those articulated, the double, I call them accordion buses, but they got mad at me when I said that. They're not called that. It's an articulated bus. And that was great because that essentially doubles the capacity and you don't need any additional staff to run it. It's just a slightly longer situation. So with those articulated buses, you could double the capacity at really no additional staffing cost. So that's something for us to consider as well. Challenges on your end? I was great to work with, so he didn't have any challenges.
No challenges at all. No challenges at all. So just in terms of our next steps, we are obviously trying to make plans as we move ahead into this season and how we might want to tweak or adjust our winter response. I know it is our annual winter response strategy, but we did put it in place and reporting to council that we would report back with any revisions or modifications to what we had done this past year. So to Andrew, I think Andrew noted it earlier, of the 3 rec centers, two of them were on the mountain and one was downtown. The 2 that were on the mountain saw very low usage, like maybe 1 person all season at one of those locations. So that was a little challenging for us. So we're looking at that. And then the other thing, again, we know that this is not a seen as some revolutionary great practice that is going to resolve people's homelessness and get them into housing. It really was what it was. It was intended to be an immediate response to try to help get people warm and ensure that they were safe. So our City of Hamilton Council has recently heavily invested in some additional supports to our emergency system and trying to address some capacity issues. So this year, those services that were to end March 31st of 2024, we actually had our senior leadership make a decision to extend them all through and not shut them down on March 31st as we planned because of our capacity issues. So they were extended until November 30th, with the plan of winter response is going to start again December 1st. So really, those are operational right through until March 31st, 2025 right now. And then additionally, we are looking at our shelter system capacity overall in Hamilton. I know, again, none of us want to be creating additional shelter spaces. That we also don't see that as the outcome or the solution, but trying to address some historical capacity issues and just what we're all experiencing right now. So we've just gotten approval to implement 192 additional temporary shelter spaces that are all, we're working with our partners to bring those online by December 1st. So we're trying to work very quickly to get those online. We also just recently got approval for an 80-bed outdoor shelter that we are also trying to operationalize by December 1st. And those spaces are actually going to be targeted to people that are individuals that are in encampments, people that are living as a couple or with pets, because those are traditionally folks that have difficulty getting into our current shelter system. And then we're actually planning to report back in spring of 2025 with our recommendations or our findings of what it would cost to implement a higher number of permanent shelter spaces. Right now, we're actually talking potentially 470 additional shelter spaces in Hamilton. So right now, we're reporting back on what does that look like, and what's the feasibility of doing that. Like, what's the magnitude of impact for that cost. again, we all know that housing is a solution. That's what we're working towards. We're not trying to build shelter spaces and that be our solution kind of thing, but also trying to just address some of our realities at the same time. So that's kind of our next steps. Our information, our contact information is up there, as well as in our documents and stuff. But that's it from us.
Right.
Thanks.
Yes, go ahead. We're going to do question and answer right after, so if you don't mind to just hold it. Okay, yeah, and we'll get to you as soon as we're done our other presentations. Alison from British Columbia. Also, just to let people know, there's 2 seats here. Please feel free to use them. I know it's hard to stand for this length of time, so don't be shy. Come up and grab those 2 seats. And if anybody has an empty seat beside them, just raise your hand from them. It looks like there's 4 or 5 empty seats still available if you choose to use them.
Well, thank you, Dawn, and really grateful to the Canadian Alliance for this opportunity to be able to present to you guys here. As Dawn said, I'm from BC, and the challenges that we have wanted to share today are around seniors that are homeless or at risk of homelessness. That's been something that has been growing in BC. It's been growing across the country, but in BC it has been really pronounced. And we'll come to some of the numbers a little bit later. So part of my program presentation today is to share the challenges we've seen, the pathways to homelessness that we're experiencing, what we've been doing, and the outcomes that we've been able to achieve. So Senior Services Society of BC is a small community-based nonprofit that works with seniors to help them with prevention of homelessness and with support if they're homeless. When I say small, to provide context, we have 15 staff, and we've been around for about 46 years, so we've been doing this for a little over 4 decades. This visual, and I apologize for the US coin, kind of spoke to me when I was preparing this presentation, because it truly represents the status of the seniors that we work with housing on one side and homelessness on the other side. It literally is the edge that they're balancing on every single day, and they don't know which side they're going to land on. Most of the seniors we work with are homeless for the first time from the age of 60 to 100. So that's who we're working. They're not street entrenched. They've never been in a shelter system before, and they don't know how to navigate the system. So if you can imagine, every one of you, take a minute and just imagine the conversation that I'm going to have with you, and imagine yourself as a senior, because if anything, every single one of us are seniors, either seniors today or seniors in training, because we hope to be one. So what is it that you want for you? In BC, for a context, seniors represent 20% of the population. 24.6% of the seniors are over 65. There's a natural draw across Canada, and for dual citizens from the States to come back to Canada, and a lot of them settle in BC. 22% of the homeless population are seniors, 23% last count, and that number has grown 5 times in the last 10 years. And unlike most of the major provinces in the country, we do not have a ministry responsible for seniors, which adds its own level of complexity. So the why. Why do we have this problem, and why do we need a program like our SHINE navigation system? Navigation is a word that's used a lot around systems, but these are just some of the elements that are pathways to the seniors that we deal with. And I apologize, I kind of did some damage to my arm and my foot on my way over, so I'm a little bit slow in my reaction time. So single. Most of the seniors we see are individuals who are single and they just have more month at the end of their money. They've worked most of their life, and the cost of living just puts them in a position that is precarious. Intersection with health. This one is increasing and it's widespread. So anybody who knows the challenges with connecting with health as a rule, it just intensifies as a senior. And for seniors who we work with, normally seniors who are renters, often within 20 to 24,000 a year is their annual income. So if you can imagine that situation. And if they don't have a connection to a health authority that would give them supports, whether it's assessment for home health or any other supports they need, landlords in their concern result in providing them with a crisis eviction. That is intended to never be executed, but to help them connect to support, to health. Well, that's problematic on its own with the seniors because that creates trauma for them and for everybody around them. The other piece that we've seen increasingly is exit from hospitals. So a senior goes into a hospital for a particular condition. It develops to be a chronic situation. They're in there for a few months. And on the day of discharge, they are discharged at noon, and they find out that their landlord hadn't connected with them and thought they were dead, had their home relet and all of their belongings discarded. So now they're sitting in the lobby of the hospital calling us and saying, we were discharged today and we have no place to go to. Moving regions. This is another one. I'm not sure about all the other provinces, but in BC, we have 5 regions. So if you move from one region to another, your health supports do not travel with you. And if you can imagine a senior who's worked and lived in a particular region, they become homeless, they're moved because of housing to another region, an adjacent space. That's true in the Metro Vancouver area quite a bit because the rents in Vancouver are quite high. And we move somebody, say, to the Fraser region. If their supports don't travel with them, we recently had an instance about 2 weeks ago when a gentleman who worked on our transit system battled mental health issues for 30 years of his life, but had stable housing. He lost his housing because his landlord had to use his space, and we helped him find permanent, affordable housing. As his supports didn't transfer over with him, he started to disintegrate and committed suicide. Like, that is not an outcome we want, but the transfer of health supports, so critical to seniors, is well, so critical to anyone, but particularly seniors, is something that we're seeing a bit of. Spouses. So as you age, the hope is that you will age as a couple together if you are a part of a couple. And if you happen to be at 2 different levels of support, we often find that assisted living requires a certain proportion of your income, which leaves the other spouse really struggling to make ends meet to have rental housing. So if there are 2 people in 2 different housing, quite often one person is on risk of becoming homelessness. Employment, with all the pieces around restructuring, quite often it is the older person who gets restructured out. Elder abuse. This is something we've been seeing a lot of, not just physical abuse. That's not something that we've seen a lot of, but emotional, financial, and technology. What do I mean by that? Financial is an older adult with a little bit of a nest egg, wants to have it transferred to his adult child or her adult child in good faith that the child takes care of the asset and themselves. More often than not, the child is happy to take care of the asset and discards the parent. We don't have a mechanism in place to reverse that decision if there are signs of elder abuse. There was one court decision this week where a $1.2 million home was returned to the senior, which is a step in the right direction. But we need something that would be a more seamless process legally so that the senior doesn't have to deal with a court situation at that time. Ageism, the underpinning of anything that a senior deals with, is if you have a vacant unit in the market, 9 times out of 10, the senior won't get it, just because of the myth that they're going to be problematic clients, there's a risk to the landlord. And physical environment. A lot of the purpose-built rental buildings are old stock, and they were meant to be walk-up. They were not catering to seniors to age in place. So that adds its own challenges. And those are just some of the pathways that seniors come to us and need to be supported. So our SHINE program, and I know this slide is a bit cluttered, but it's just meant to demonstrate the number of services, every single senior is unique. You'll get this in the presentation folder, so you'll have that. Every single senior is truly unique, and the combination of services they need to sustain themselves is also unique. So how do you train somebody? Our navigators are trained to be able to navigate all of these systems. And that's what they do. They find out what the need is and how they can help bridge that gap for the senior. Most of the services can be divided into 5 buckets now. Information and referral for somebody who has a friend or a family member who can help them. So it's a light touch, information and referral. Somebody who's tech savvy, you can send them a link to a loop. That's not often the case because a lot of the seniors we work with, not all, but a lot of them are high touch, low tech clients. They don't need to have a website sent to them. They actually want you to walk with them. Navigation services is taking it to the next level, assessing the actual need of the person. If they have a limited budget, what is the why for that? Are they accessing all their supports? Are they able to, are they being abused in some way? Do they have a bad habit? Are they, being in some way violated? The third is housing. In the absence of, we don't have shelters that are dedicated to seniors or senior-specific shelters. So in the absence of shelters, we have created rapid access units. These units provide individual unit or studio unit to a senior, along with 3 meals. And this is for a senior who has lost everything. They have no ID, they have no paperwork, and it gives them typically 2 to 3 days to up to a month in that space with a caseworker to help them get their IDs in place and get their finances put together. Once they have that, they go into what we call temporary housing. And the temporary housing gives them between 3 months to 6 months with a case manager and helps them identify the place they need to live in that will support them sustainably on a permanent basis. And then, of course, permanent housing, a referral from that temporary housing into permanent housing. Now, what I'm very pleased to share is that every senior that we've placed through this process over the last 5 years has stayed permanently housed. Every single homeless senior that we've placed. The 5 seniors that came back to us were seniors that had their housing connected to their employment, and they lost their employment. They were a building manager in one case, and they lost their employment, and they consequently lost their housing. Or in another case where the person was a group home operator, they got cancer, lost their job, and consequently lost their housing. So other than extenuating circumstances, every single senior that we've placed through this process has stayed permanently housed. And the result of that has been the partners that we refer. We don't have any of our own housing. We work with partners across the province. And every partner that we've referred a client to has now really seen the value of that referral. So despite the crisis in the Lower Mainland, despite the crisis in BC and everywhere right now, I'm humbled and pleased to share that my team currently, for the last 6 months, this will be the 7th month at the end of October, have come to me and said that at every single month, we've had more affordable housing units available to us than seniors that need housing. And that's the value of this service. So we started to do this, and we've done this, as I said, over years. We recognized the need across BC, and we identified partners that could do it with our support as back-end support. We've been able to deliver this now successfully through initially with 3 cities, and over the last year and a half through 10 cities in the province. So we have 2 cities in every region of the province that is able to deliver this service, and we provide that back-end support and find the threads and the themes that are running and try and find sustainable solutions. What do I mean by that? In 2018, for example, there were 22% of our clients that were caught between provincial and federal funding. So on their 65th birthday, their provincial funding ended, but their federal pensions did not kick in. Service Canada had sent out the letter. Of course, being low-income seniors, they had moved a few times since they gave their information to Service Canada. And so there was a gap. By the time they recognized it, they were made homeless, and they were homeless for up to 6 or 8 months. That was quite unnecessary. Happy to say, 4 years later, we had 2 seniors in that gap. So it's not perfect, but it's definitely better. We're now trying to wrestle with the work with CRA. So if anybody here has a contact for CRA, happy to connect. The reason I say that is everybody who works with seniors knows that if you don't file your taxes, even if you don't owe taxes, it impacts your income. So if you don't file your taxes on the 30th of April, you lose your GIS. And to low-income seniors who are at 20 and 24,000, 10,000 below minimum wage, that is huge. And then it takes them another 6 months to get it reinstated. So we've identified that trend. We've been working for the last year and a half with CRA, Service Canada, and the Ministry of Poverty Reduction, with our team and a few other teams in the province. So we've got what we call a super clinic, where they show up and any senior in that city who's between 64 and 65 can take an appointment, come there and have their paperwork put in order. Our hope is that this can be then shared through all the cities, because it's something that a senior needs to be able to access in their city. But it is definitely working. So outcomes. We've seen really good outcomes, both on the housing side, on the flow through, on the partnerships. We even have private sector landlords that come to us if they've had a problem with a senior and they didn't know what to do. They've reached out to us. And reciprocally, they've reached back to us and said, if you have a senior and the market is $2,500 a month, we'll offer it to you at $1,800 if you can bridge that, because we see the value of that service. The biggest challenge, despite all of the successes, is we do not have multi-year funding for this service. We've been able to drill down the cost to run this particular, it comes down to finance, to be able to run one of these hubs in every city or in any city. We've been able to say we need a housing worker, a navigator, an outreach worker, 1 unit per city of rapid access and 3 units of temporary housing. And that would be a cost of $330,000 a year. Not totally prohibitive, but if you can get that in place, you could have that flow in any city. Of course, when you have cities that are, as I call super cities, like Vancouver or Burnaby or Surrey, you might need 3 because you don't want the senior to be crossing the city, which is quite large. Or in remote cities, you might have to scale that a bit. But that's the total cost, which is really affordable. I know as of yesterday, we've just got a government in place in BC, and I'm excited about the opportunities that might come through because they've been very supportive so far. So if we can get multi-year funding, this would help build on it. Because, I guess I'm just talking too much here. Got to move the slide. So this is our SHINE program and our partners. But if you can, from the previous slide, and the backspace here, you can see if you have so many systems to navigate and so much to learn, every time you have to replace a staff person that needs to be trained on all of these systems and the relationships with those systems, it just wastes time. Multi-year funding would allow for that building relationship and that continuity of service, because our partners lose their staff every February and they rehire others in April or May, which is kind of a waste of time, really. So that's what we're hoping for, is multi-year funding for a program that actually has demonstrated huge success. So that's our SHINE program, and I'm not sure if one of our partners is in the room. I know she was attending. So we have 2 per region. And as we identified the different trends, so for example, legal was a trend we identified, estates, wills, representation agreements. So we were able to bring in a company or an organization, Seniors First, that would do it for all of the partners across the province. So each partner did not have to try and get a legal aid or a representation in their local community. The same thing is true of counseling services. We have retained the supports of one organization moving forward, and they provide any senior in BC with counseling services on a sliding scale from 0 cost to low cost, depending on their income. So we've been able to do those pieces. I guess the biggest challenge is the lack of multi-year funding. So some of the recommendations for this program, CMHC had Future Cities Canada Award about 3 years ago, and they recognized SHINE as a program that should be scaled up across Canada and every city, and that it had value. The United Way of BC put out a housing precarity report recently, and they recognized both the SHINE program and the temporary housing program as programs that should be embraced. Simon Fraser University did the Aging in Place study across 3, you're nodding your head, so maybe you were part of that program, three different cities in the country, Montreal, Calgary, I believe, and Vancouver. And they've identified this program as a promising practice to be encouraged. And of course, most recently in the last month, the city of Vancouver had their seniors housing strategy rolled out. And in that, they have embedded both the SHINE program and temporary housing. So it's recognized. It just needs to be funded. This is our vision. So we've got the 5 nodes there. And our hope is that at every city, this is what we hope to have, a little node that would support seniors in their local community. That's our vision for the future. Well, thank you. And I look forward to any questions after. Yes. Jenny's. Yeah. 8 minutes to remain. All right. And my colleague couldn't be here. Now, she provides services to seniors in affordable housing buildings. And I'm going to play her clip there. It's 8 minutes, so it should do it.
Hi, my name is Jenny Konkin. I'm the president and co-founder of Whole Way House Society, where we build healthy communities in housing.
Josh, we can't get it to come up on the screen. It's playing on here. All right.
We partner with nonprofit housing providers to provide on-site community building programs and tenant support services to low-income seniors, veterans, people in transition from homelessness, people with disabilities, and vulnerable families. We operate in Vancouver, in the downtown east side, and across the Lower Mainland, as well as in Victoria. And we really believe that if we can create a safe and welcoming environment, we can build meaningful relationships and a healthy community that instills worth, value, and dignity. Seniors now make up 24% of the homeless population in Metro Vancouver, and 45% of them became homeless after the age of 55 for the first time. This is completely unacceptable, and we need a funding stream to support seniors to age well in place. The way that our model works is that we partner with the nonprofit landlord in order to build trusting relationships with the tenants because we're a neutral third party. We're able to bring our services on site, so we aren't coming in randomly as outreach workers, but we're consistent in our programming in those community building programs and tenant support. We take a two-pronged approach when responding to homelessness. One is by bringing those into the housing and walking alongside them with the tools that they need to be successful in their tenancy. And then second is prevention of homelessness. And that really is stepping in and supporting those who may be less independent than they used to be and are in decline. They might be becoming more at risk of losing their housing because of that gap between housing and health. And we can coordinate their services to ensure that they're able to remain housed with the support that they need to be safe. We know that this need is increasing. Whole Way House currently has 11 sites that we partner with. We support more than 1,100 residents, and more than 800 of them are seniors. We have 7 housing partners, and we operate in 4 municipalities. We work with all 3 levels of government. And yet, as I said, there is still no stable funding stream to support seniors to age in place. All of our programs are based off of our 3 pillars: reconnect, rebuild, and recenter. The reconnect is really low barrier programming that's designed to help neighbors connect with each other and build healthy relationships, as well as with our staff. So this could be as simple as a morning coffee program that helps people get up, take a shower, get ready for the day, and have somewhere to go to get started. It can also be birthday parties and family dinners. These are great ways to connect. The rebuild is all about rebuilding a sense of purpose and self-worth and value. And so these are programs where they are actively participating, whether it's through volunteering, taking a workshop or a class. These are the things that help them build a sense of belonging in the community. And then the recenter, I'll go through a little bit deeper, but this is really our one-on-one tenant support program, ensuring that they have support in place to age well in place, especially when it comes to medical coordination. It should also be noted that we host a community committee at each of our sites where the tenants feed into the programming, help us design, and also give their feedback and thoughts on what we do in their building. Over the years, we have seen our tenant support program become more and more vital as seniors are aging and beginning to experience more complex healthcare issues. And so we could be coordinating anything from hospital discharges to advocating for home support services if someone is in decline. It could be helping to coordinate their medical appointments, making sure that they have transportation, also knowing what their next steps are after an appointment. Many of our residents are facing a terminal illness and might need follow-up with blood work or making it to their next appointment. We also help with government forms and applications, ensuring that they're accessing the resources that are available to them. This could be the different government grants that are available, and also filling out paperwork. This could be really helping them overcome the barrier of technology. And so we are on site to provide this service to them. We also are conscious of scams and fraud that are happening, so helping to ensure that their finances are safe, that there's no elder abuse happening. And these are all the types of things that we can help with because we're on site and we know the clients quite well. So often it's described to us that we act as if we are a good family member and we step into support where needed, but we don't overstep to remove their independence and autonomy. For more than a decade now, we have seen how this program works to help seniors age in place and support vulnerable residents. We've been part of many different studies and recommended as a promising practice and a model that can help seniors age in place by the Aging in the Right Place study that was done across Canada in 3 different cities. Also for the United Way's Seniors Housing Crisis Report, the City of Vancouver's Seniors Housing Strategy, and we are working with BC Housing right now on a pilot project to collect the data to create our case study to put forward to the Ministry of Housing. I want to share Martin's story with you briefly. He moved into the Veterans Manor directly out of a homeless shelter when he became homeless in his 70s for the first time because his housing was being torn down and there was nowhere for him to go. Martin is a veteran. He's 3rd generation military, and he was very proud of his service. However, Martin was in the early stages of dementia, and when he moved in, he had so many belongings they overtook his home. But they were clearly so important to him, so we wanted to help. We knew he was on the verge of losing his access to home support because they could barely step into the unit. We were starting to see pests and rodents become an issue, and so we spoke with Martin, we built a relationship with him, and he allowed us to help. We had a team of volunteers come in with our staff to do a clean team. We got his unit up to beautiful standards, as you can see in the photos, and we put on display some of his military memorabilia so that he could feel proud of his service. He's now safely housed. We're so proud of where he's at, and he's doing really well. This model works. We have seen it work time and time again. We've maintained a 92% retention rate for seniors moving in out of homelessness at the Veterans Manor since 2017. We are part of a pilot project study with BC Housing. Our resident survey reported more than 93% satisfaction. We have a 100% satisfaction rate with our housing providers. And as I mentioned, we're part of some other studies as a recommended model to help seniors age in place. So why does this work? Number one, we are not the landlord. We are able to remove that barrier of the power imbalance. We hold no power over them. We don't advocate to the landlord or for the landlord when it comes to tenancy issues. So we remain neutral. There's no conflict of interest. And we're not health. We have that flexibility to navigate systems and be on site in order to provide that support for people. And then really, because we are on site, we're scalable. Our services can ebb and flow with the needs of the tenants. And so we're able to be proactive and prevent crisis. And when crisis does happen, we have a quick response. So thank you so much for being a part of this presentation today. I hope you've learned something, and we're so grateful to be able to join you.
So thank you very much. Jenny Konkin and Hallway House and ourselves are part of a group, tongue-in-cheek, called the Group of Seven. And that's not because we're artists, but we're creative in solving this problem. And we've been working together for about 2.5 years consistently, the CEOs of the 5 housing providers and the 2 of us as service providers, and demonstrating outcomes that are sustainable. Thank you.
And we have Avery and Chantel from Labrador.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming to take in our presentation. My name is Avery Brown. I'm the social worker at the Mokami Status of Women Council in Happy Valley Goose Bay. My co-presenter is Chantel Parsons. She's the Nuncia, but community outreach worker. We're going to chat to you today about the outreach model that we have developed in our community. The United Outreach model is a grassroots outreach initiative developed naturally from the needs in our community, based on the idea that trust is built through meeting people where they are, with no expectation. Okay, yeah, no worries. Sorry. So the United Outreach model is an outreach initiative we developed based on the needs in our community through the idea that trust built through meeting people where they are with no expectation of immediate engagement builds connection that leads to healing, guided by the individuals that we're working with. Our team sees regular attendance from 8 different organizations in our community, but is connected to over a dozen. To provide a little bit of context on the needs that we are facing, we want to provide a little bit of background about what we're seeing in Goose Bay. So Goose Bay is a rural and remote community located in central Labrador, and it serves as a hub for both the north and the south coast. So we have a very diverse population. We have a large Indigenous population, primarily of Innu and Inuit. Along with this, there is a significant amount of racism present in Happy Valley Goose Bay, particularly towards Indigenous people, which is reflected back in how many folks feel about those facing homelessness, particularly unsheltered homelessness. Much like the rest of the country, Goose Bay has seen a significant rise in homelessness since COVID-19. The housing stock in our community is little to none, and what is available continues to skyrocket in price. So the brunt of this has landed on our single shelter, which holds less than 20 people when it's at its full capacity. For some context to this, right now we're seeing upwards of 20 people who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness. So they're sleeping outside in the trails with full shelter. So that we do not have the resources that we need. There have been several different takes on this concern of housing and homelessness in our community. It has become a very polarizing topic. One side of this has been a significantly increased racism and hatred towards homeless people in our area. And this is associated specifically with Indigenous people. Under the guise of public safety, people were and are still very against the presence of not only unhoused folks, but also Indigenous people in public spaces in our community. The irony in this has been reflected in a recent RCMP public safety report that shows us that those most affected by the increased race and crime are those who are unhoused. They are the most vulnerable in our community. As well, there have been several violent incidents in our community towards Indigenous unhoused folks. Incidents that were met with little sympathy from other folks in town, which leads us to wonder who was really unsafe in these scenarios. Due to the rates of unsheltered homelessness rising, people had nowhere to go. This means that the worst days of people's lives are largely on display for everybody to see and everybody to witness. They're on display for a community that they know is loudly in opposition to their presence there, and a community that would regularly sooner pull out their phone and record them rather than see if they need any help. On a more positive note, there are a lot of really wonderful organizations doing a lot of really beautiful work to support the needs of our community. And the creativity has been key. A local hotel, through the support of Newfoundland Labrador Housing, has been turned into an overflow for the shelter, which has helped get people off the street. Around the same time, a provincial action team was formed by Labrador Affairs to address the concerns. This brought together many areas of government, all three Indigenous groups, as well as stakeholders in the community. And this was certainly a precursor to the United Outreach initiatives that we see today. Part of the positive response was there was a significant increase in outreach efforts outside of the shelter. Previously, it had been largely up to those working in the shelter. These outreach efforts are often low barrier and harm reduction centered, but they were happening independently. So organizations weren't communicating the way that maybe we would have needed them to. Frontline staff weren't sitting in rooms together to discuss what was going on. This, of course, meant that there were barriers, and this lack of communication can breed distrust. I've seen this in my own work at the Women's Center. So we have a supportive housing, and so we have vulnerable women, and we also serve them in their basic needs, people who aren't living in our center. And then we have a women's shelter for more crisis-centered needs. And there was very little communication between me and the folks that worked at the women's shelter. And we served basically the same population. So prior to this, there was a huge breakdown. And the distrust that forms through lack of communication doesn't help. We all care so deeply for the people that we serve that we want to make sure that the care they're receiving is what we know is right. And if you don't have a relationship with the person you're referring out to, it can be hard to trust what's going to happen when they sit in that office. You want to know that they're not going to come out harmed. You want to know that they're going to come out with the services they need, the services that maybe you think you can provide them right then and right there. So there was a bit of breakdown in that way, but we've noticed that the United efforts have bridged that gap. So the United Outreach began. So it began almost by accident. The province reached out for advice on a point-in-time count, and community organizations had concerns over the count being trauma-informed and done by people that our clients were familiar with. This led to the Mokami Women Council, Nunatsiavut, and the Health Authority outreach workers meeting to discuss how this can be done well and thoughtfully. The day of the count came quickly, and it became one that got the job done, but also built connection between service providers in the field and also service providers and service users. We came together the next day to debrief the event, and something was very clear in the air. There was a strong desire for this to be the beginning of something rather than the end. We didn't want it to be a one-time thing, and the service providers in the room felt empowered to help the clients that we're serving through this connection. So we met continuously and did a couple more point-in-time counts overseen by the Labrador Affairs Department of Government, and soon after, the community workers decided to take over the lead themselves, and the United Outreach team was born. Labrador Affairs is still very supportive and involved through check-ins and data collection, but ultimately it does rest in the hands of frontline staff, which is something that we have found to be uniquely helpful.
The United Outreach team has had an impact on our clients that all could see. With the complex trauma and needs of our... Can you hear me? No? Okay. I'm really short, sorry. Okay. Better? Okay. The United Outreach team had an impact on our clients that all could see. With the complex trauma and the needs of our vulnerable clientele, trust doesn't come easy. It takes time and consistency before they feel comfortable disclosing their needs. As Avery discussed, our clients experience a lot of discrimination in our community. This leads to barriers of distrust in people they don't know, so building trust is a long, careful process. When forming relationships with our clients, it didn't begin with treatment applications or helping them find secure housing. It started small, something as small as a sandwich, or just as simple as talking to them as humans. When we first started uniting our resources and starting regular point-in-time counts, the clients living in the trail systems would be receptive of food and water, but weren't trusting enough to disclose anything further. After about 6 to 8 weeks of consistently servicing them, they would start to share what they needed. Through the long-term efforts, clients now see us as a united front. They are more than willing to go to the Friendship Center or to Mokami Women's Center or to the Opiate Dependency Department for addiction treatment and counseling. They are comfortable sharing their complex personal and family needs. For example, earlier this month, I had a client who was suffering with severe alcoholism approach me to discuss treatment options. This particular client has been through several treatment programs and was seeking something to help with reduce withdrawals. Because of the direct relationships within United Outreach, this client was not only comfortable going to the opioid dependency program, but actually started receiving a new treatment option, naltrexone. Every day we are seeing the impacts of a widened support network. When working with clients who have been abused, traumatized, or incarcerated, there is never too much support for them. It has shown our clients that not only one organization cares, but a network of organizations coming together to better service them. Most of our time, our clients are villainized due to racism, addiction, negative stereotypes, and discrimination. They hear members of the community degrade them, voice their hatred, and our clients are left feeling worthless. As a result, they start to believe it. They start to lose hope in the future and just try to survive day by day. Because of this, they lose their sense of self. Through United Outreach, we have established a supportive, nurturing, safe environment for our clients to rebuild their self-worth and seek help. Through United Outreach, we try to hold at least 2 to 3 events a month for our clients to partake in. These range from fun-based events such as bingo or paint night to our culture-based activities. During these events, the clients are happy, have full bellies, have a warm place to be, and have a sense of belonging. As we recognize we serve a mainly Indigenous-based clientele, we acknowledge the importance of cultural events and how it's a sense of healing for most. Last year, we started small with day trips to go ice fishing or berry picking in the summer. By the end of the summer, we realized we had the resources to organize a much larger scale event. As a result of United Outreach, this year we were able to attend the week-long Mastroianni Innu gathering. We spent a week in Innu tents where the clients helped set up the tent, pick the boughs, cook food on the wood stove, and help cut wood for elders who were also attending. Throughout the week, we heard comments that consistently mentioned how this is healing for me. It's like coming home. This is doing more than any treatment center. But maybe most impactfully, we constantly heard the comment, "We're looked at like people here. We're not garbage." Providing our clients with the chance to heal through land-based events not only allows them to reconnect with their culture, but also they get to reconnect with their sense of self, who they are, where they came from, and their sense and purpose. It was eye-opening to see the impact of the gathering had on our clients. There was no shame, no urge to use, and no anger, just a sense of belonging and a strong sense of pride within our clients. It was extremely fulfilling to see our clients not only having fun, but to see them regulated, happy, at peace. It was a memory I will cherish forever. This is an event that could not have happened without the support of United Outreach. This is decolonizing work. Giving our clients the opportunity to partake in cultural events provides them with a sense of healing and decolonization. Many of our clients have suffered greatly at the hands of residential schools and colonization. Thanks to United Outreach and coming together, we are able to better connect our clients to the land they grew up on. While the gathering ended in September, the effects are still felt within our clients to this day. Since feeling that healthy, positive environment, it has given our clients a sense of confidence, motivation, and hope for the future. It created a safe and healing space where clients could rediscover their goals and dreams. We have this one client who is about 21 years old. He's been in and out of foster care his entire life, no support, and never really given a fair chance. He is so young and so many people already counted him out. Since the gathering, since he attended the gathering, he came and spent the week with us at the gathering. The first day was a little bit of a struggle to adjust to being sober and regulating. But by the end of the week, he was cooking for everyone, playing with children, and found a sense of healing. Since the gathering and becoming familiar with United Outreach, he started to become receptive of the help we were offering. Thanks to joining our resources at United Outreach, we were able to get him a tent to sleep in, a sleeping bag, and enrolled in ABE to finish his high school diploma. While this client is young and still has little to no guidance in life, he has become determined to make something of himself. He is currently sleeping in a tent overnight, packing it up every morning so it doesn't get damaged, then walks himself to school every single day. This is one of the many success stories as a result from United Outreach. Instead of one or two people to support them, our clients are exposed to a network of supports, which motivates our clients to find hope again and achieve their goals. To see clients who struggle daily, clients who have no support, clients who have faced more trauma than we can imagine, to see them working together, laugh together, and create a sense of belonging amongst each other showed us that our clients benefit greatly from uniting our resources and services.
As Chantel really beautifully outlined, the clients we serve are struggling with many different challenges, and uniting has helped them significantly. This alone has made it easier to be a service provider in this community. The work is hard, and we care a lot about the people we serve for each individual client. The community that comes from United Outreach has made working in this context a lot easier. I've worked in frontline service provision for many years and in different positions in different places in Newfoundland and Labrador, and I felt the same feeling every single place that I worked. I felt disconnected. I felt disconnected from some parts of my own organizations. I felt disconnected from other organizations and from the services that were being provided. I felt like I didn't have the resources I needed, and I wasn't even really sure what was out there. Myself and my peers all desired that connection to be rebuilt. This strong desire meant that once we did start meeting, as the United Outreach team, the bond built quickly and easily. For all of us, it was the first time that we had been in a room with staff from other organizations who were in the similar positions to us. It wasn't a group of leadership, it wasn't a group of management that were coming back to the table to tell people on the front lines what they were seeing in other organizations. We were sitting at a table with people who were in roles just like ours, saying what we were seeing firsthand. There was very little opportunity for communication to break down. This felt good. It felt good to know that there are people out there who see what you see, and even people to share a new perspective with. It was really healing for me and others who are performing frontline work. The connection also meant a growth of trust, and this meant that we trusted each other with client care. It was easier to distribute the load. Relationships bring accountability, and this helps us to feel secure in knowing that the standard of care that our clients will receive. This also meant that when we are struggling as service providers with what to do next, we know that we have people to turn to. We have support in our community. and this shares knowledge as well. The gains of this were also reflected through advocacy work. When prior to this, a client may only have one person to go to for a support letter, somebody who knew them very well. Our clients now have access to an entire network of people to fight alongside them in getting their needs met, and all of these people know them because we're all going to the same events, we're all sitting in these same outings, and we're getting to know them on a deeper level. This fills gaps that we didn't even know needed to be filled. It feels good to have somebody to fight alongside of with your client, somebody who you know cares just as much as you do. And this has seen better outcomes like the one Chantel described. An invitation goes out to every organization that has client contact positions in our community, and it is strongly encouraged that the person who attends these meetings is the person doing the client contact. With this, we have found the communication flows efficiently and effectively, and frontline staff come away with it from what they need. There's no reliance on secondhand information. Being united in our outreach work. Before United Outreach, when I looked into the community, I felt like all I could see was gaps. I felt like there was gaps in services, gaps in communication. And now, since sharing information, there has been more things developed, but even before there was more resources developed, a lot of the gaps closed because I just realized what was actually in my own community. And we're from a small town. So it's kind of impressive how quickly those gaps filled for me. The example of naltrexone that Chantel mentioned was a big one, and the ODT team, and they became so helpful to everybody around us in providing a harm reduction lens for people who were interested in getting some kind of treatment, but weren't interested in a typical treatment program. As I said before, I've worked in several different capacities, and this model is a unique one for me. We are a group not housed under the same funding. We don't all hold the same position. We aren't all housing workers who are just propped in different locations. There's somebody who can meet every need at this table. And one of the things that unites us is that we care so deeply and that we are willing to meet with people regardless of their history. We don't have to force people into a box to receive our services because there's somebody at the table who they meet that mandate. We are also the only group servicing this population specifically, the unhoused, unsheltered population in Goose Bay in our community. And we all sit on this team together. We are grateful every day for the trust that our clients have in us. They know that there is a team working to bring them together. Clients in the community know who we are. They know what the United Outreach team is. And when you say you're connected, there's an element of trust that comes pretty instantly. Our group and what it is doing is only continuing to grow. We face similar challenges to everybody else. We face multi-year funding challenges. So a lot of our positions who sit at the table, they're not permanent. So we don't know from year to year if they're going to continue. But we have faith that they will, and that as this grows, we will continue to receive multi-year funding. I know that every community is different, and I encourage people to take away from this what resonates with you and leave what doesn't. One takeaway that I strongly encourage that people leave with today is to trust your frontline teams and the people using your services. Listen to and amplify their voices, because your frontline staff are likely the ones that will make sure that the voices of those who are using your services are amplified. This team could not have become what it did if there wasn't trust from our leadership to serve the people in the way that we know that they need. Frontline staff see the needs clearly because they have relationships. Trusting frontline staff in their work through empowering them to lead a collective team like this has led to an incredible impact in our community. And we know that similar impacts can be made in other communities as well. I forgot to put our contact information on the slide, but it's around and on the website and stuff like that. So if you want to discuss any more, we would love to connect with you and see what this means for you. I have some reflection questions that we won't answer, but you can take a picture and maybe bring them back to your communities if you think that it would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you to all our presenters. We have about just under 10 minutes. Actually, we got about 12 minutes for questions. So if anybody has any questions, I see a hand. I'll repeat it in here unless you want to come up. Okay, you go ahead and shout it out. I'll repeat the question before you answer. Yeah, that's okay. The question is regarding the warming bus, if there was any sort of security prior to folks coming onto the bus for safety issues, and you're ready to answer.
A very low barrier, very easy access. So no, we did not search clients. Even given the space on the bus, that would be extremely difficult to do just from literally a room or from having to like go through pockets while standing outside. So no, and we did not have any significant issues with weapons or anything like that brought on. So no.
Question is if there was a requirement for a metal detector or wand for any sort of weapon detection on the bus.
No, that was not a lot of the issues. If we had clients who were upset or anything like that, it was they were able to just kind of be talked down and de-escalated. We never felt, and my staff, even in the year since, have never talked to me about that being a thought or a need on our end. So.
Thank you for your questions. Any other questions? We have one here in the front. Question about the bus, the warming bus. Is it pet friendly?
It didn't come up. No, it's not super pet friendly. Again, just because of space and those requirements. But yeah, no, it didn't actually come up through the winter. So.
Sorry, I was just going to add to that given it was a city bus, we had to follow their
Policy.
Their policy for service animals. So if it was a defined service animal, then we'd be able to look at that. But if regular or other pets, we wouldn't be able to do.
Second question, when folks are on the warming bus, how are they accommodated for washroom use?
I forgot to remark on that. So we realized how severe that issue was within the first week, and then we built in a stop so as part of the Rob's winter warming response, as part of the city's broader winter warming response, there were a few city parks where they opened the washrooms to 24 hours, and they had overnight security at those washrooms. So we built those into the stops. So there was 3 washroom breaks per night.
Any other questions? I see. Okay, we'll go to you, and then we'll go to you. Okay. So the question is again for the warming bus asking, was there any promotion or communication to community and folks that they would figure would be using the bus in advance?
We admittedly pulled it together close to the December 1st deadline, so we did heavily rely on our agencies to promote it with our service users, so our shelters, our drop-ins. We had information posted on our website, recognizing our service users often aren't using the website, so we tried to print like the map as well as the stops and what expected time that they would be at each stop each night, because it was a defined loop like that 3 times a night kind of thing. So we tried to hand those out as much as we can, and we kind of leaned into our street outreach team as well to be handing out those information slips to people that were encamped or homeless.
A lot of it, as I said, for getting ridership was my staff on the bus. They would just get out and just talk to people that were in the area and just say, hey, if you want to get warm, you can come on. So, yeah.
Okay, you can go ahead. For the senior program? Oh, sorry. Okay, for the outreach in Labrador. So the question is, was there a change in mindset for? Sorry. Okay. Okay, so asking if there was a mindset shift in community when it was mentioned that there was a lot of racism towards the individuals experiencing homelessness with your efforts. Has it changed communities?
It's kind of a bit of a slowly but surely thing. We've definitely noticed a shift in some ways. We're very out in community and very present because we're working with people who are sleeping outside. The things we're doing with them, some of it is outside. One thing that we've done that has had a really good impact, that it wasn't the intention, but that's how it worked out, is we've done cleanup days of people's like encampment areas, where we've gotten folks involved in cleaning up the space, and they requested it, and we've gotten pizza and had a bit of fun with it. And we've done a few of those, and the community has kind of seen that, and it's forced people to shift perspective a bit about wondering, why is it these places have garbage everywhere? Has anyone thought to give them a garbage bag to clean up or things like that? And we go through community to get donations, and every time we do that, it's an opportunity to explain what we're doing. And people are really intrigued by the effort, and they see organizations that they respect as part of this, and so that forces them to kind of shift that perspective a little bit. But it is definitely still a problem. We're still experiencing those kind of that volatility for sure, but it's not going to change overnight. But every day I think it changes a little bit.
Thank you. We have time for one more question. I did see another hand up right here in the front. Go ahead.
I actually have two questions that are really short. The first one is for the morning center that didn't get a lot of do you think transportation is a reason for that?
Question is for the warming center that did not get a lot of individuals. Was there
Was
transportation the barrier, do you think?
Honestly, I don't think transportation was a barrier. To be totally honest, we chose the two mountain recreation centers to ensure that there was one on either end of the mountain, and that circular loop to kind of be able to go down. We didn't think that we were going to see a lot of usership at the site. It was much less than we thought. We thought we wouldn't have one person all season, but I think it's just a matter of we don't have a lot of usage in that area.
Okay, last question.
No, the outdoor shelter is going to be on city-owned land.
Okay, just to repeat the question, was the outdoor shelter on private property? And the answer, once again?
And the answer is no, it's going to be on city-owned property.
Thank you very much for attending today. It's time for a little break before your final session of the day.